This is the homepage of the Natural Capital Tool. Here you can make an account, sign into an existing account, or explore our About page. Our About page is where you can find answers to frequently asked questions and find our related documentation, such as the tool user guide or the methodology report, where you will find the parameters used for each of our models. Step 1. Select your area. So here is where you outline your target area. You can do this either by drawing an area directly in the tool, or uploading an existing geopackage you might have. You can also pull from existing polygons you've already uploaded. You can select different maps using this icon up here. We often find people prefer using satellite maps, for example, as they can get a bird's eye view of their area of interest. Today, I'm going to use the street map. Step 2, pre-intervention layers. So what do we mean by pre-intervention layers? This is where you explore what is currently present within your target area prior to making any interventions. Here you can view the habitat baseline, ecosystem service models, opportunities to boost ecosystem services, habitat networks, and context layers. Habitat baseline. This is our bespoke habitat baseline that pulls together a variety of land cover maps, such as the habitat map of Scotland and the Scottish land cover map, and creates a habitat quilt covering the entirety of Scotland and the extent of the Highland and Islands. When you hover over each polygon, you will get the broad habitat with the more specific habitat underneath. Opportunities. Here is where you can choose the opportunities you want to explore, and these opportunities are split up into 3 options. Explore existing habitat networks. This is where you can explore the existing habitat networks of 6 different habitats: broadleaf woodland, grassland, heathland, mire, wetland, and pond, and examine gaps in the network that could be an opportunity to expand. So here I will load the woodland network. So you can see here, from loading the legend button, the different color gradients. We have low, medium, and high. And what this represents is the dispersal distances of a generic species specific to that habitat. So this will be the dispersal distance of a species specific to woodland habitats. The lighter green areas represent the usable space for species with higher dispersal distances. So opportunities to connect these patches exist between them, and you can see how these might align with other opportunities to highlight pinch points. Tackle a specific issue. These layers show us the opportunity areas for boosting specific ecosystem services. Opportunities to boost ecosystem services appear in areas that have low capacity for that service. In other words, they're not providing it very well, and a high demand for the service. In this example, opportunities to mitigate downstream flood risk are areas where natural flood mitigation measures may improve inland flood mitigation downstream, as the model takes into account the upstream contributing areas for all areas of high demand. You can see here that there are areas showing significant opportunities for mitigating downstream flood risk, where woodland interventions might also expand the current woodland habitat network. So by viewing layers in this way, the user can highlight pinch points in the landscape where interventions could provide benefits to both people and nature. This can also be seen by loading the Generate Multiple Benefits from Woodland layer. What this layer is showing you are the locations where an intervention would provide multiple benefits, in this case, a woodland intervention. This will help users to strategically plan interventions where there will be multiple benefits for people and nature, particularly if they are applying for funding and wanting to justify the location of a planned intervention. Context. This is a collection of publicly owned datasets that could be useful in guiding land use decisions, such as core paths, forgotten woodlands, or land capability for agriculture. You can also upload your own context layers, and these could include things like farm boundaries or community place plans or treasured landscape maps. Advanced. So this is where users can find the capacity and demand layers for each ecosystem service. The capacity and demand layers are what we use to produce the opportunity layers. The capacity layers show you how well a landscape is providing a particular ecosystem service. And the demand layers show you what areas within a landscape require the provision of a particular ecosystem service. These layers combine to make our opportunity layers for each ecosystem service. Opportunities exist in areas of high demand for a service and low capacity. Step 3, add interventions. So this is the step where we actually plan our interventions, where they're going to be and what they're going to look like. So like with the first step, you can either draw or upload an existing geopackage. This might be a particular farm or park boundary. Today, I'm going to demonstrate the draw function and also how you can use the habitat baseline to choose where your interventions will happen. Okay, let's load the woodland network and mitigate downstream flood risk layers. We have identified our pinch points where we would like to make an intervention. So we shall zoom in and I will use the habitat baseline to select my areas that I would like to make an intervention. You are then presented with a long list of habitat interventions where you can even simulate the loss of habitat. I am going to select broadleaf woodland native. Here you can see your intervention and you can even change the habitat type. I'm going to zoom out and turn the habitat baseline off. I will now show you how to use the draw function. This is particularly useful if you want to implement smaller areas of woodland like silver arable or agroforestry. You can also draw wildflower margins. Once you have finished making your interventions, you can head to the next step, where the tool will present you with the relative uplift scores as a result of your interventions. While we wait for the uplift results, what is happening is the tool is rerunning the capacity maps for each of the ecosystem services using the new habitat map you've made with the habitat interventions you've added. You can see these interventions before and after you simulated them. Once the results have loaded, you will be presented with the relative uplift for each of the ecosystem services and the biophysical and economic valuations associated with your interventions. You can also view the capacity maps before and after your interventions, so you can spatially see how your interventions have affected ecosystem services. Finally, you can export this information by clicking Export, where you'll be given a summary of the outputs, habitat networks, and signposted to funding opportunities.